Welcome everybody. Welcome back to Competitive Speed Series. Anything can still happen. Let's see how things are going to go. Through he goes, and SET lead a race here.
Talk about a close finish to this one. Kazoo Seedon takes another championship.
Oliver Renault puts the crown on VNT's dominant season.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world. And welcome back to the Competitive Speed Series, where tonight we have the console qualifiers. Of course, we had the PC qualifiers last night. Today we head to the console side to see what teams will take up the 11 spots on the grid for what will be a fantastic season ahead. My name is Max Ring. I'll be taking you through tonight's action alongside Ollie Hornaby. How are you, Ollie, on this magnificent Sunday evening?
Excited to see what people will do tonight, because PC last night was thrilling all the way through with very tight gaps, and I'm wondering if console will bring the same.
Hopefully they do. It'll be interesting to see how these console drivers line up for the season ahead. But drivers have just started lobby 1. Before we quickly get into that, let's run you through who's in the lobby. So in lobby 1, who we're about to spectate, it's TRT, VLS and REL. Lobby 2, we have FVR, TRS, TTN, FRT and HYD. Lobby 3, IRT, AERT, QDR, GT10 and VLX. And then lobby 4, ETA, HLR, VMV, SCI, WRL and SSL. That will be the final lobby of the evening, and a lot could ride on that one. But let's now head track side, where we can see what these drivers have to offer. And the first driver out onto the road looks to be Legion in the Red Bull. So Ollie, of course, we're here at Suzuka as well. It's an interesting track when it comes to, of course, qualifying. And, of course, being the first season with these F126 cars, teams have had to adapt quite a lot.
100%. Obviously, compared to last season, you had quite simple regulations. The cars were much bigger as well, but the battery, which is the most important part of this game so far, was much more simpler. Nowadays, it's so much more complex that drivers have got to basically relearn everything about the battery just to try and be competitive in the slightest.
Yeah, they certainly do indeed. As we're seeing Legion now make his way through the first sector. Of course, this one not too much battery dependent. Of course, you're really just throwing the car through, having some slight lifts to save as much battery as possible, and then get onto the power through the Dunlop curve and into the first 2 Degners. Of course, this is the first lap of the evening and the benchmark for the night as a whole. But of course, 18 minutes for each session. You can see big lifts before he heads into turn 10 in what I like to call the Kobayashi curve. And then off onto the power, and then making his way through 180R, and he's going to be making his way all the way up into Spoon Curve, once again lifting just before you get onto the brakes slightly, down to 5th gear, then a big slam on the brakes down to 4th, misses the apex ever so slightly, And it's all about this run now, up the hill and into, of course, a 130R, a very, very fast corner. Of course, not a challenge in these 2026 machines. It's mainly just focusing on the Casio triangle, braking at 100 meters, over that first inside curve nicely, over the second one as well, back on the power, a bit of a slide on the exit. That would have cost him some time, but the benchmark for the evening, a 1 minute 27.9. Not too bad there from the Red Bull.
Not a terrible start indeed, but obviously for a benchmark it could be much better, but at the same time it's a first lap which could also be the break between everything. Up next is White Sheep. He's gone a bit faster, he's done a 127.917, which is the new benchmark, shortly followed by Ariel Pease and his teammate slotting into P3 and P4, both in the 29s. There could definitely be some time found in that. All that's left now for the bankers is Oskid, who's going through Kobayashi curve before now launching his way around 180R, burning the battery a small amount before going into none and just trying to capitalise spoon curve entry, lifting in the slightest bit. He goes very tight towards the track limits on the exit before powering down the back straight all the way up the hill towards the infamous 130R. He's still burning as it stands right now. He's done a 10.4 middle split. That's very competitive for bankers, but it all depends on what he can do through the Casio triangle, braking very late, hitting the inside curve very well in second gear before powering down towards the line now, burning the battery once again. And this is going to be the best lap so far. It's a 127.744, very competitive and a very good lap to keep an eye on.
Yes, certainly is indeed a great start there from, of course, the VLS drivers. Of course, first and third at the moment, both in those 127. And it is, of course, a great start there for Oskix, as he will now bring it back to pit lane. But of course, being the first lobby of the evening, a lot rides on your shoulders. You've got no real target to aim for. It doesn't really, of course, bode too well for some teams, but others it removes that pressure because, of course, you can just do your own thing here, Ollie. Of course, we've both been drivers, and just how difficult is it, especially in Lobby 1, to really find your feet and know what exactly is a competitive lap time?
It's horrible to be in Lobby 1. Obviously, these drivers definitely have some guts to do it, but to be in Lobby 1 at the same time, it shows that you are confident enough to have the benchmark for other teams to set. If it's a good benchmark for other teams, then you'll be able to survive comfortably, but if not, you'll be on the edge all the way through, which you have seen many times in other events, and conveniently also last night where we had it a lot.
Yeah, we certainly did indeed, and now we're just waiting for Max Bricker to make his way through the Casio triangle. The only driver in this session of 6 cars yet to set a lap, and we shall see what he can deliver here, of course, for TRT, as he now makes his way into turn 1, a very wide line to carry as much speed as possible through 2, and then up into the Suzuka S's. This, of course, is just such a naturally flowing part of the circuit, and it is just so nice to drive if you can hook it up. But you can just see, taking it nice and easy, making sure he saves enough battery before making his way up into the Degners. First sector split of a 32.1, not too bad there from Max, as he now makes his way up into turn 10. The hairpin will be braking just at an orange flag on the right hand side, down to second gear, slowly pick that power back up. And of course here, Ollie, especially when you've not got a lap on the board at this stage, getting one is so crucial, and that applies a bit more pressure onto your shoulders.
It does indeed. He's fortunately for Backbreaker, he's got a little bit of traffic. Hopefully it doesn't hamper him too much. Ghosting will be on, however, so he doesn't need to take the most avoiding action ever, but it doesn't seem to have bothered him that much. He now powers the way through 130R, 130R, sorry, with no battery left, braking once again as late as possible into Casio Triangle in third gear. That could be something to keep an eye on, the gearing through the Casio Triangle. But up to line once again, this is going to be his benchmark, and it's a 127.671. Very confident, but that could be beaten by a lot of drivers tonight, couldn't it?
It certainly can do indeed. And of course, these drivers that are still yet to go, of course, in lobbies 2, 3 and 4, they can learn off what these drivers are doing. They can see how they may be lifting at certain corners or applying their battery and use that information to their own good, maybe even to find a few more hundredths of a second. But any time, especially in qualifiers, is crucial. So as we now look at, of course, Max Bricker's teammate White Sheep for TRT as he makes his way through the first sector split, down by 13 thousandths of a second as he now makes his way through the Degmas and up into the hairpin. Of course, can still find time throughout this lap. Of course, having a slower first sector may mean you can have a quicker second sector. You may have saved a percent or two more in the battery, and that could be that time difference indeed, as he now makes his way up into Spoon Curve. Only 27.9 currently, only 2 drivers not into the 27s. That's both the RLE drivers of P's and YK. They're in the 29s. And for White Sheep, as he now makes his way up into the middle sector split, look at that, half a tenth found, but it still will keep him third place for now.
It's not bad indeed. Once again, the Casio Triangle, he's done the same strategy as Max Bricker until the second par. Downshifting second, but it didn't look too bad. If you guess the last sector, ideally it does, and he does indeed, he does find another tenth and a half to 127.7 on the dot. That, for TRT, is crucial for them tonight, isn't it, Max?
That is certainly a crucial lap. That means there, of course, time will at least average out to a 27.7, a very crucial lap time done. Legion just came across the line. He set a 27.861, improved by around about a tenth of a second. Pease has come into the pit lane. Let's check on his teammate YK, who's up by a tenth in the first. It's about 6 tenths down on what Max did in the first sector, and he's actually down by 3 tenths in the middle, so it must have been a mistake somewhere in the lap, but it's been a disastrous start here for REL, and they are nowhere near in contention at the moment to qualify, you would think, unless there are some big luck that goes their way. Oskik is now making his way down the main straight and into the first couple of corners. As we're reaching that, we've just reached that halfway stage of the session. The pressure is now on these drivers, especially REL, to get competitive lap times on the board. Now for the likes of TRT, it is going to be just try and extend that benchmark even further to make sure you have a comfy margin to the field behind.
It is currently with Oscar at the moment. He's done a 31.9 sector one. He's up by a tenth and a half. That is a powerful sector one for console, and he does the lift into Kobayashi Curve round the hairpin in first gear this time before going down 180R, burning the battery, going as tight as he can towards the inside line, going into 8th gear momentarily before shifting down to 7th, and then lifting through Spoon in 5th then 4th gear before powering as early as possible onto the back straight and up the hill towards 130R.
Yep, here he comes then through the middle sector split. Are we going to see even more of an improvement here? He's lost a little bit of time in that middle sector, but still on for, well, pole in lobby 1. And the quickest lap of the evening so far, a little bit deep into the first apex of the Casio Triangle. That might compromise his exit ever so slightly as he makes his way to the line. Now, of course, straight line mode activated, and he found time in that final sector, even with that slight mistake, a 27.5. Spectacular lap time there from the VLS driver to put himself up into P1. Max Bricker is back out on to the road. He's on an outlap along with the 2 REL drivers who, of course, desperately need a quicker lap. And for Oskik, it's a little bit faster. And I think at 27.5 is actually quite a respectable lap time there. That's quite competitive. So for VLS, they've certainly got an opportunity here tonight.
VLS have definitely got the front row at the moment because average-wise between them and TRT, it is so tight at the moment. I believe if anyone did that head, it might be TRT, but the margins are so small, you wouldn't even be able to tell. You probably would blink less. Probably couldn't blink as fast as the smaller the gaps are at the moment. It doesn't matter now, though, because Max Bricker is going to try and change that and put it even more into favour of TRT.
Yeah, certainly is indeed. Max Bricker now making his way down that main straight and into turns 1 and 2. The Alpine driver, of course, for TRT is going to do everything he can to find an improvement. If he improves by a tenth of a second, he'll snatch that P1 back away from Oskic, and he will be the overall benchmark setter, the pace setter of the evening, as he now makes his way through Dunlop curb, rides the curb a bit too much, and that might have bogged him down slightly, but he still does improve by 1,000th of a second through the first sector, and makes his way nicely through the two Degners. Now up into turn 10, down to second gear, takes a tighter line, of course, into that hairpin. There's a multitude of lines you could take, wider and later apex, or an early tight line to get an early apex. So as he now makes his way up into spoon curve, this is make or break for the middle sector. You need to hit this apex nicely. You just roll away from the corner of cam, but a natural understeer just induces you to that outside line. And then we're going to see through the middle sector split. Is there an improvement? Yes, there is, by a tenth of a second indeed. So for Max Bricker, what could be one of his final laps of the session, if not the final lap of the session, might just be able to take it away from Oskic, but the Red Bull will have time to respond. But a big slide out of the Casio triangle ruins any chance of an improvement. Luckily, it's time to come back into the pit lane. And what are the RLE drivers doing? Pease is not improving, and YK now makes his way into the Casio triangle. Ooh, gets it all wrong.
The question is, though, was that the right move for Max Bricker? It seems like if he's got the amount of tyres it was, so he will be okay to just keep going. We've now got people going out for their final laps now. Of course, some people have urged Box to come in, such as Max and maybe one of the RELs. But now it's time for White Sheep to possibly start his last lap, unless he goes for a double out.
I think a double out lap might be a little bit too risky, especially with how much time we've got left. And no, he is going to go for a double out lap. Try and burn as much fuel as possible. Get your tyres into a bit of a better operating window to start the lap, and then push forward. Of course, TRT would have tried this in their practice sessions. They would know that it still does work. You still at least have relatively the same performance from the tyre. So he will be one of our, well, will be the third driver to set a final lap. The driver that will start the final runs will be Oskic, who I do not believe will not have, have enough time to do a double out lap. So as he now makes his way out of Spoon Curve, the pressure is on now, Ollie. Of course, they've set very competitive lap times so far of at least the top four drivers. REL with a lot of pressure on their shoulders to find anything in this session. But, of course, in Lobby 1, you want to end things off on a high, and you want to be the team that tops that session.
Exactly, you want to be the team to beat. And if you're not the team to beat, you are in a little bit of trouble. But Oskic seems to be going for the out push lap. Yes, he is, and he starts to burn the battery down in the pit straight towards turn 1. He's going to burn a significant amount of it as he enters the very high-speed turn 1 before lifting for turn 2 in 4th gear, before going as wide as he can on the exit, before going into the S's. Such a nimble set of corners where he's got to be so careful. It seems he might have backed off, and yes, he has. So he believes that it could have been better. So we're going to go to, I believe, Legion next, actually, his teammate, who is also going for a push lap.
Yeah, we'll see what Legion can do. He certainly does not have enough time to back out and go again as he makes his way through turn 2 and into the Suzuka S's. Is there any time in the lap for the second of the VLS drivers as he makes his way now through the right-hander down to 4th gear? A bit of a tighter line where we've seen others. Of course, this is where we saw Max Bricker make the mistake through Dunlop Curve. And he has made it through nicely into the Degners, up by 200 through the first sector. A little bit wide through Degner 2, offsets his run on the curb ever so slightly, and he's having, of course, that big lift into the hairpin. Gets a little bit of understeer as he hits the apex, goes a bit too deep into the corner, and once again that will compromise his run all the way down now into Spoon Curve. You're going to be just lifting off the throttle into the first left, then try and hit that second apex. He hits it nicely, but went down maybe a bit too many of the gears, and that's going to compromise his minimum speed through the corner, and once again compromise his run down the straight into 130R, and it has cost him dearly. He's down by half a tenth in the middle part of the lap. But is there anything to find through the Casio triangle? not as aggressive on the brakes as we've seen Max Bricker and his teammate. Again, maybe just carrying not enough speed through the second part of the chicane up to the line. It is still an improvement, puts him third fast. It's a 27.6. A lovely lap time there from Legion as Max Bricker and White Sheep is coming to the line. And White Sheep not improving, but Max Bricker up by a 10th in the first sector.
It did look very good from White Sheep up to then. Unfortunately, he just had a big snap of the rear. Max Bricker now is the driver that needs to make the statement for TRT, otherwise they're going to be not the team to beat, which would be an absolute shame. But Max Bricker at the moment doesn't seem to be improving. He's currently down by 600th of a second going into Casio Triangle. This could be what ruins TRT to be in the chance of being the event part. They've gone a bit deep into the corner, and it just seems like their session could be in a bit of like consideration now, as that's them done. Max Bricker unfortunately doesn't improve, so now it's Oskid. Could he extend Valaris' gap at the top? Or will... Oh, sorry.
He certainly could indeed. Both Peas and YK aren't going to find an improvement in this one. They have just backed off to go together, and it's Oskid going to find any time? No, he's certainly not. He invalidates the lap and just turning a little bit too early. But I think he backed off before that through 130R. But it is going to be VLS who top Lobby 1 here with a spectacular lap time there from Oskik and a good secondary lap by Legion, who just misses out on P2 by 9 thousandths of a second. Fine margins here in Lobby 1. And of course for REL there, Ollie, bitter disappointment in the 29s and just were not able to hook a lap up together.
Yeah, they'll be a bit disappointed, I feel like, but at the same time, it's a big event. If you try, you try. If you don't try, you don't try. Personally, if you try and you don't succeed, it doesn't hurt as much as not even bothering, in my opinion.
Yeah, it certainly does. Of course, for REL, bitter disappointment there. For VLS, that's exactly what they would have wanted to top the session. And for TRT, I think they're going to be a little bit disappointed with that as well, Ollie, being second and third. Max Bricker definitely had more time in the lap. Same with White Sheep too, but your Lobby 1 order is Oskik with a 27.5. Max Bricker and Legion both in the 27.6s. White Sheep with a 27.7. And then 29.3 and 29.5 for REL. But before we get Lobby 2 underway, we're going to head to a quick intermission to get the lobby set up. And we'll see you in a few moments' time. We should be back in around about 5 minutes or so. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here for Lobby 2, where we have FVR, TRS, TTN, FRT, and HYD all battling for their places in CSS Season 8. And Ollie, of course, we saw a great display from VLS and TRT in Lobby 1. The pressure is slowly mounting onto team shoulders as each lobby now ticks by. But Lobby 2, you're kind of in that midpoint where there's not too much pressure, but there's still pressure to get a good lap time on the board.
100%. This lobby, as you mentioned, has got FVR, FRT, TRS, TTN, and HYD. FVR, FRT, and TRS are 3 teams to, my opinion, to keep a good eye on because I feel like will be the team that hold the top 6 spots in this session. Because for FVR, for example, they've got Melwin and Dawid, 2 incredibly fast drivers over the last game that have only improved onto this game, which is very impressive. Speed Demon and Thiago of FRT, 2 very talented drivers. Hopefully they could try and resemble what they brought near the end of the last game as well. And then Marcos Panis and Andy, who are 2 very much underdog drivers, I'd say, for this lobby. So hopefully it all goes well for them lot.
Yes, hopefully it does indeed, of course. Quickly run you through the cars. It's FVR in the Alpine, TRS in the Audi, TTN in the Ferrari, FRT in the V-Carb, and HYD in the Aston Martin. So the first drivers out on the road are actually both of the FVR drivers. It's going to be Melwin and Risks who will start this one off, and it will be Melwin to be the first driver to set a lap. Of course, they would have took some learnings out of course the last lobby, maybe to see where some drivers did deploy their battery. Of course, these are naturally quick drivers anyway, so they're probably not learning too much. But let's see what Melwin can deliver. Ollie, take us on a lap here at Suzuka here in Lobby 2.
We have Melwin here going down towards turn 1, bolting it before lifting it through turn 1 and 2 before getting on battery and having a massive slide on the exit of turn 2, which might not help him too much as he flows very carefully through the S's. Doesn't look too bad as it stands, as he just hugs it in 5th, now 6th gear up towards the end of sector 1. It doesn't look too bad, as he does a 32-1, I believe that says, in Sector 1, which is it's decent, but there is definitely time in that. But we'll see as he goes through hairpin in 1st gear, going down 200R, burning the battery as much as possible, but just trying to... I need the Valadash there, I didn't realise that. So, we'll go to Dawid instead, who isn't invalid, but burnt a lot more battery, as he stormed his way through Spoon Curve before getting as tight as possible to the apex, which he does, and washing out wide, but just about enough to not be screwed over on the exit, as we go down to the infamous 130R with a monstrous Sector 2 split. He is definitely going to be one to keep an eye on as we go down into Casio's Triangle, braking very late in 2nd gear, cutting both apexes perfectly, and early on throttle, up to the line, burning even the last bit of his battery. And he does a 1:27.4, which is the new fastest lap of the night at a banker.
That's a spectacular lap time there from Risks for FVR, and they certainly have shown themselves as clear favourites to qualifiers. Marco Paines and Andy, 27.9 and 28.2 respectively there for the TRS drivers. Yao goes to 4th on a 28.3. Speed Demon to 30s on a 28.0, closely followed by Force McStone, who's gone to a 28.2. What about Tiago for FRT? He's just started a lap. You've still got Keek here as he now makes his way through Spoon Curve and makes the run all the way up into 130R, of course, for HYD in the Aston Martin. And we'll see what he can now produce as he makes his way on to the break. And now through the, of course, final corner. And for Kikir, his 2nd fastest, a 27.9. Not too bad there, but his teammate only a 28.6. That's not the greatest average there for HYD, but still shows they have some pace in the bag.
It's not a bad lap for one of the drivers. However, for the other one, there is 100% a lot of time in that. Unfortunately, Melvin and Thiago both invalidated their lap, so they're going to be eager to get out as fast as possible, as Melvin is currently on that set out lap, as he's just tried to get his way around to get his banker lap done, then 2 more, which is doable. We saw it quite a lot the other night, but it's going to be very tight with time, because it's all about turning around in the pit lane.
Yeah, it certainly is. Of course, the better you are at getting in and out of the pit lane, the more laps you will get. And of course, depending on how much you fueled your car, if you run out and go into low fuel mode, even though it may not be too far from the pit lane, it can certainly mean that you spend that little bit too much time and you can't get that 4th run in. So for Melwin, maybe invalidating is the way you need to go, because of course it does have that little bit of buffer. Of course you want to get all 4 laps on the board, but it does give you that little bit of a respite, because you don't have to do a full in lap with an invalidated lap, but it just adds a bit more pressure onto your shoulders. So for FER, they've got 1 time on the board, a 27.4. If Melwin can match that, or at least go a few hundredths shy, that certainly does mean that FER will be the front runners coming out of Lobby 2, unless people can go quicker. So as we make our way into turn 1 now, with Melwin down to 4th gear, bringing the car out to that left-hand side. Nice, calm, composed, smooth steering input so far through the first few corners. Where the car just trying to step out slightly as he makes his way through the S's, but still holding things quite nicely as we now head up through Dunlop and into that first sector split. What are we going to see here from Melwin? It's a 31.9, not too shabby in the first part of the lap. Nicely done through the Degners as well, using all the track he possibly can on exit and then into the hairpin. Nice narrow line that does offset the car slightly low, a little bit of the rear trying a fight against him as he gets back onto the power through 200R and into Spoon curve. It will be onto the brakes, down to 5th gear, bring it to the right hand side before swinging it straight back in, and a big slide there from Melwin. That's going to cost him dearly, especially up into 130R. Melwin, this could potentially be a 27.9 at the very least, a 10.7 in the middle sector. Not going to be a very competitive lap time to his teammate.
Really is not, and unfortunately, it's that Spoon, and it's just gone all down the drain even more. Is he going to finish the lap for Adela? It does seem like he will, but he is going to be really upset, and it's only a 28.0. Could FER actually be a team to keep an eye on? Considering Dawid's so high up, Melwin could be a potential liability for tonight, couldn't he?
He certainly is not having the greatest starts here to Lobby 2. And for Melwin, he certainly is cracking under the pressure slightly. His teammate Risks is invalidated through the first couple of corners. We head back to FRT Thiago, the other driver who hasn't set a lap time so far here in the second lobby. We'll see what he can deliver. So far, his teammate, Speed Demon for FRT, is on a 28.0. He would love to at least beat that by a few tenths of a second, just to better FRT's chances of making it through. A 32.0 in the first sector is not too bad at all, and makes his way through the Degners nicely, of course, as he makes his way up into the hairpin. This is where we saw the first of Melwin's mistakes in the middle sector. He had a little kick at the rear end, did Melwin, but for Thiago, nice, calm, composed, and the car stays firmly planted. A little bit of wheel spin on exit, but won't affect him too badly as he now makes his way into Spoon, of course, down to 4th gear, rolls the car in nicely. Brick uses all the track on the exit, of course, activates straight line mode. And will make his way up into 130R. Middle sector split here from Thiago, 110.5. This is certainly tracking sub 128. I think we're going to be only a few tenths off Risks here through the final part of the lap, through the Casio triangle, a bit deep through the first part, but shouldn't compromise him too badly on the run to the line. Thiago, 27.720, a very respectable lap time indeed.
It is a very good lap, but Marcos Panis is coming up to the line. He was actually going to start another lap, so the next driver would, I believe, be the T10 driver of Force McStone, who is also up by a reasonable amount of time. He's up by just under 0.3 of a second into the Casio Triangle. He goes incredibly deep, and it's just gone down the drain. Unfortunately for him, he's going to be backing off. So we've got a bit of a break until we've got another driver going. I believe Andy's on a lap now, with he come through Spoon Curve, going as tight as he can through the second part of Spoon as he powers onto the throttle as early as possible, coming down the back straight, up by 0.2. That is very, very good. If he can just perfect that into the final sector, he will be very happy. Going into Casio Triangle, he flicks in very early, but it gets it to stop. And up to line, burning the last bit of his battery, it will be a 1:27.8, putting him into serve fastest, which is very good for him. And I believe he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think TRS as a whole will be very happy with that at the moment. A 27.8 and a 27.9. Two very strong lap times indeed. And his teammate Marco is now up by nearly 0.2 of a second. So he could see them into the 0.7s. But very late on the brakes. Too late on the brakes. Tries flicking the car in. No rear traction at all. And has to pull into the pit lane. Just got a little bit too eager there on the brakes. And it did not work out at all. And for HYD, bike is not going to be able to make his way onto another lap. So he will just, of course, set himself up again if he has the fuel to burn. Melvin has come out on an out lap, and he is just making his way through Spoon Curve. Speed Demon's up by about 1.5 in the middle sector, but he has aborted and come into the pit lane. So that is going to be all your second runs done. But we now look to Melvin and what he can do. The only driver yet to set a lap time. And for FER, they need this lap on the board. Even if it is a couple tenths shy of his teammate, something is better than nothing. And it gives them at least an opportunity to make their way through.
Exactly, 100%. Melvin, as I said, could be a liability. But this lap will decide it, I feel like. And they only did a 28.0 last lap. This lap decides if FER look a bit more safe, barreling down towards turn 1, down in 7th gear, shifting from 7th to 4th whilst lifting. He looked a much cleaner turn 2 this time compared to his first lap, as he now come through the very tight and twisted S's in sector 1 in 5th gear before downshifting. Never mind, no, he doesn't downshift to 4th gear, but staying in 5th to try and capitalise the minimum speed before burning a little bit on the exit of Dunlop. And in sector 1, he's done a 31.8. That's better than last lap, but it depends on if he can keep that going together through the rest of the lap. Through Degner 1 and 2, it looked pretty clean before going to the mighty hairpin. Yep. Until getting on the exit down towards 200R, where you will meet the infamous Spoon Curve, where unfortunately it went down the drain for him last time around. But this time, could it go better? Will it be a yes? Will it be a no? It looks okay so far. He doesn't invalidate before falling into 4th gear, and it looks planted right now. Compared to last time, it looks miles better.
It certainly does look a lot better here from Melvin. A 10.2 in the middle sector as well. As long as he keeps it clean through the Casio Triangle, it certainly could be FER being somewhat confirmed through here already in Lobby 2. He has a nice Casio, maybe a little bit scruffy, but wouldn't cost him too much. Up to the line, it's a 27.4, and he has pipped his teammate to that Lobby 2 provisional pole, and it's a spectacular lap time there from Melvin. When the pressure was on his shoulders, he has delivered the goods, and that certainly is going to put FER in a very, very strong chance of already confirming themselves through here for Season 8 of the Competitive Speed Series, as we have, of course, still got the rest of the field to come. Tiago was on an outlap but comes into the pit lane, but we'll see what these drivers now have to offer and what they have to deliver in response to FER's lap time.
It depends if anyone can meet what they've done, because 2 very strong times, and in David's lap, there's probably more time, because a 0.4 of the banker is very respectable, but if he's doing that at the banker, there is 100% plenty of time left on the table. But it's the big question of if he can match that.
It certainly is all about if these teams can match it, of course, for Marco, as he now makes his way through Spoon Curve, of course, in the Audi for TRS. At the moment, they're on 2 very respectable lap times. We did see Marco up by nearly 2 tenths, and he's done it again through the middle sector. And I'll be making his way now into the Casio Triangle. This is, of course, where it all went wrong, and he's gone a bit deep again, but he's been able to get a better exit this time around than he did last time. And he's going to carry it onto the line. What's it going to be? He found time in that final sector. It's a 27.758, and this puts TRS in a little bit better contention at the moment for qualification. And now their average is probably going to be around about a 0.8 dead. So very, very strong times indeed. Risks has come back out onto the road. Tiago has as well. Andy's just making his way through the first sector. It's going to be Speed Demon who will get us underway. And we'll see what he can do as he'll get us ready for the final runs. And I don't believe here, Ollie, Marco can go again. So maybe mistimed a little bit slightly from TRS, but shouldn't cost them too dearly.
It might be okay. I think he's trying to go around as slow as possible. If I look very carefully, he's dashed 1.3 laps of fuel, so his tyres could be in a bit of jeopardy, I feel like. But he just needs to be careful of not impeding anyone if he wants to save as much fuel as possible. Will it happen, in my opinion, though? I don't think so. So I think that's him done. TRS can only applaud him because it's not a bad lap at the end of the day. So hopefully Andy can perform at the same level.
Yep, certainly could do indeed. They would love to get a 27.7 as their overall average, or even higher. But we are now just looking at Speed Demon for FRT. His teammate's on a 0.7. He's only on a 28.0. So for FRT, we'll certainly need a little bit more from Speed Demon if they want to be a bit more comfortable in their position. So as we make our way through the Suzuka S's, taking a lot more curve than we've seen others do all evening long. And now up through Dunlop and into the first sector split. Is there an improvement here for Speed Demon? Yes, there is, by a 1/10 of a second in the first part of lap of 32.1. Oh, but gets it a little bit wrong through Degner 2. Takes a bit too much curb there in the V-car, but he now makes his way into the hairpin. Of course, a little bit deep there as well. Gonna mean he has to hesitate to get onto the throttle. So for Speed Demon, it might just all be going away, and the pressure might just be getting to his shoulders. And he's actually aborted, I think, here. He's backed off, and he's just, I believe, got enough time to go again. It's going to be very fine margins. But for Speed Demon, he's backed off, getting ready to go again. He'll be the last one to the line. As we look back at risks in the Alpine for FVR, this is just to flex their muscles and extend their gap even further.
100%. It all depends what he does in the middle sector. He's improved a slight amount. It would keep him impeded. I don't think he'd be too angry, but if he can go faster than Melwin, I don't think Melwin will mind either. It looks okay through Casio Triangle. He cuts that final corner so much. Just try and capitalise. And Speed Demon has not made it to the line, but Dowd has got into the 0.3s with a 27.322. That is absolutely electric. And FVR have just stamped their place into CSX this season. Almost certainly.
They certainly have indeed. Marco was not able to go again, and he has retired. He's, of course, on that 27.7. Tiago only a few thousandths down on his previous best. And now as he makes his way through the final corner, is he going to find an improvement just to help FRT a little bit more? It's a slight improvement, but it might not be enough come the end of things, and Speed Demon's mistake might come dear for FRT. Here comes Kicker up to the line. He's only 6th fastest. No improvement there for him. Force McStone on the 28.2. He's seeming to struggle through that Casio Triangle. Is there an improvement here for the Ferrari across the line? There is. 3 attempts found at 27.9. What about for Yao? He's 3 attempts down. He won't be finding an improvement. What about the other HYD car here in the Aston Martin? He's got it all wrong into the Casio Triangle. And I believe this is going to be it. Oh, and a spin to boot as well. So for HYD, it's certainly not looking good for them. Same could be said as well for TTN. But for FVR, sheer delight here, Ollie, with 2 drivers below the 0.5s.
He can be very happy with that, I feel like. But my predictions were a little bit wrong, I feel like. I had FRT doing much better than they actually did. TRS, though, all they can do is have a round of applause. If at the end of the night that's enough to qualify, fair play to them. That is a very competitive lap. But it all depends on what other teams do now, because I feel like the second half of the night is much more competitive and much more stacked.
Yes, it certainly is now up to fate for these teams. Of course, FVR have topped the session there. 1 students, Tiago, Marco, Andy, Kakir, Force McStone, Speed Demon, Yao, and BYK who round out that session. We're going to head to a quick intermission where we get Lobby 3 underway. We're with IRT, AERT. We then have QDR, GT10, and VLX all competing in that session. We'll be back in a few moments' time. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to Lobby 3, where if you weren't with us just before that intermission, we have IRT, AERT, QDR, GT10 and VLX all in this evening's lobby. IRT in the Red Bull, AERT in the McLaren, QDR in the V-Carb, GT10 in the Audi and VLX in the Ferrari. But, Ollie, we've had 2 lobbies down. What are the current standings looking like here for this evening?
Well, as it stands at the moment, FCR are the current runaway leaders, as their average is a 127.326, with a 3/10 gap to P2, which currently sits at VLS, followed by TRT, both from Lobby 1. Then you've got TRS, FRT, TTN, and HYD, all from Lobby 2, and then REL, who currently sit last as the wooden spoon.
Yes, unfortunately there for REL. Their laps of 1 minute 29s aren't really holding themselves up too nicely. But we do have drivers out on track here for Lobby 3. The first driver round will be Caden for AERT. Of course, this is really the lobby with a majority of the big hitters in. These are the teams you expect to qualify for a championship like this. And of course, with 11 spots available compared to your usual 10 of seasons past, it does also mean that we can have 1 extra team into the equation as well. But before we get things underway, Ollie, of course you are a member of the glorious IRT in this lobby. What are your expectations from both Wards and Simba in this session?
The best and only the best.
That's exactly how it should be, and that's what every team is hoping for in a session like this here in qualifiers. And Caden is now getting us underway here, and he's making his run down into turns 1 and 2. Of course, in that last session we saw the best lap of the evening being a 27.3, and we're going to see if people can match that. Can they at least try and match a 0.3 or even find themselves into the 0.4s, because Melwin and of course Risk were the only drivers so far this evening to get into the 0.4 region as well. So for Caden through the first sector, a 31.9, he's already starting off quite nicely in this benchmark lap.
It is a very strong start, to say the least, isn't it? Most people don't have the greatest starts, but Caden so far does look pretty clean as he comes through 200R down towards the very high speed spoon curve, much more tight for the first part of it than the second part, as he hugs the apex as much as possible before powering on the exit as early as possible before burning a massive chunk of that battery up the hill towards the infamous 130R. And it's a 10.3 middle split. That is incredibly competitive. Can he keep that pace up for the rest of the lap? We will have a look as he brakes very late and he clobbers the inside curve. Absolutely jumping over it. Same with the second part of it before flooring it down towards the line. And it's a 27.606 banker. Not as fast as Dawa did last time, but still very competitive for this session.
A very, very strong banker indeed. Here comes Wards now to the line for IRT in the Red Bull. What's he going to be able to do? Second fastest, just 300th shy. So a very quick lap time there from him. Mad Dogs only a 28.2. Simba 28.1. So some big gaps there for the IRT drivers. Edward up into third for QDR, 27.8. His teammate Raphael has just slotted him just behind him. He's also into those 0.8. Sugoni into 7th fastest for 28.3. Of course, Mad Dog's teammate is now coming to the pit lane of Flamu. And then Andy is going to be the last of the drivers to make their way through 130. But he has also aborted and validated this lap. Sam Lewis hasn't set a lap time either. So 3 drivers not being able to set lap times on their opening runs. But I think Andy Danny might be going for a second attempt here. He certainly is. So let's see what the Ferrari driver can do, of course, for VLX.
Hopefully he can do better than he did last time around. I believe he took a bit of a spin somewhere around the lap. But it doesn't matter now, as his best attempt is always the one way you finish it. As he comes through the S's, powering it through in 5th gear, probably in non-ERS, as he lifts around the final part of the S's before powering through Dunlop down towards the end of Sector 1, where you will meet the infamous Degner 1 and 2, as he does a 32-1 Sector 1, not the most competitive you've seen tonight, but it's definitely not terrible, and he's flown off track, and that should be lap over, but it still seems to be valid, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I think he was just able to keep a tyre on the road there and keep it from invalidation, but of course he would have been somewhat beached on that curb, and it would not have really been able to give him the best traction possible, and he wouldn't have got the best run out of Degner 2. But of course, still, a lap time on the board is better than nothing. He can still learn and get some data from it, and of course get the all-important delta as he now makes his way through the middle sector split. And yeah, look at that, 11.1. That's nearly a second down on Caden at this stage. So we are tracking on about a 28.6 at the moment here for the VLX driver as he makes his way through the Casio triangle and into the line. A 28.2 actually, so found some time in the final sector, but a very, very lucky man there to keep his lap time valid. But now Sam Lewis has come out onto the road as well, the sister GT10 car. And we'll see what these two can offer. Of course, both yet to set lap times, and it'll be Sam who goes first for AERT. Of course, for AERT, they'll want him to somewhat match his teammate Caden, maybe be a tenth shy, but that will certainly give him a strong opportunity at making their way through.
Of course, Caden would love to have definitely a rear gunner in this session, and Sam Lewis is definitely the driver capable enough to be that rear gunner, as he is just warming up his tyres at the last possible chance to before entering the Casio Triangle, where he will return in about a minute and a half after absolutely blasting around this beautiful Suzuka circuit. When he comes up to the line, enable straight mode of the battery on, he is on his way for his second attempt as he comes down the home straight into turn 1, where he had a lift down into 7th gear before shifting all the way to 4th, hugging the inside and then burning. Oh, it was tight with the track limit. I think he's just going to be fine as he comes through the S's now. It looks okay so far. His turn 2 didn't look awful, but it also could have, there definitely could be time there to find. Through the end of Sector 1 and Dunlop, this Sector 1 could decide if he does the rest of the lap or not, and it's not great. A 32.145, it doesn't look perfect, but it all depends on the rest of the lap.
It certainly does, but he also might just complete this one as well, just to get a time on the board, like we saw with the likes of Andy, as we'll see as we now make our way out of the hairpin. Nicely done indeed on the traction, and he can still build himself nicely into this lap. We've got a car in front of him, just going to be maybe a little bit of a distraction, making his way to 130R as he now exits Spoon Curve and uses all the track on the exit. A little bit of a slide at the rear end there, but won't affect him too badly. Needs this car in front to move out of the way, and they do. That's one of the Red Bulls, I believe. That would have been of Simbarox, as we now make our way onto the brakes here with Sam Lewis. A little bit wide from that first apex, nowhere near taking as much curb as teammate Caden. A slide on the exit as well with the Casio triangle. Across the line we go. It's still a 27.7. So if he hooks up that first sector a little bit better here, Ollie, we certainly could see him into those 0.4s, potentially even a 0.3 like we saw from Risks earlier on.
Don't put it past him, he definitely has the pace to do it, but it's all about the execution at the end of the day, isn't it? Currently following Warder Bushler in the first sector, he's done a monstrous first sector, he's done it, and it's all gone down the drain.
It's not gone down the drain fully, but he has backed off of things. Wards, unfortunately, there did have to back out of that. It was a beautiful first sector, but unfortunately for the IRT man, goes a little bit wide through Degner 2, gets a bit too feisty on the inside curve and a bit too greedy, and that brings an end to that lap. But already been on a 27.6, it's not the end of the world just yet. He doesn't desperately need to get that lap time on the board, of course. If you are in those top 5 teams come the end of this session, you should be safely through, I believe, if my maths does serve me correct. And now for Edward, for QDR, he's up by a 10.5 in the middle sector, so he could be a contender here to top at least the midpoint of this qualifier session here this evening, here for Lobby 3. A little bit scruffy through the Casio triangle, but up to the line we go. It's good enough for third fastest. Lost a little bit of time in that final sector, but into those 0.6s. We'll be very happy with that indeed as we head back to Simbarox, who's now through the middle sector, down by 11 seconds. He's backed off to go again. So we'll go on board with Edward's teammate Raphael as he now looks through the middle sector, and he's up by a tenth of a second as well. So 2 very strong laps could be coming the way of QDR.
It does look like it so far. He barreled through there and he's gone a barrel through Casio Triangle, but he went very deep into it. It looked like it doesn't matter. He's going to finish the lap either way, and he's done a 27.7. He's about a tenth and a half on his last lap, but he sits in P5. The gaps at the moment between P1 and P5 are only exactly a tenth and a quarter, which is incredible, because then you've got another 2 tenths to the next car. This lobby is definitely competitive, but will it be the most competitive of the night, do you reckon?
It certainly is looking like it. And of course, for some of these teams, this is make or break. If you don't get into that top 5, you really are going to be biting your nails in nervousness. You're going to be a nervous wreck for that final lobby. And we'll, of course, see that lobby in about 10 to 15 minutes time, but we've of course got 7 minutes to go here in lobby 3, so still plenty of time for drivers to find some respectable and good laps. But we are now with Andy Danny as he now makes his way through the, of course, middle sector and into the hairpin. Is this going to be a better lap time from the Ferrari? VLX really are the team on the back foot so far here in this third lobby. And are they finally going to find something, as you can see, in none all the way through 200R and into Spoon Curve? I think the only team really to do that here, Ollie, and I think that does hemorrhage a lot of time for them.
It does look like at the moment Simbarox has just come on the top line. He got blocked a little bit going into 130R, but it didn't affect him too much. He's going to be a bit annoyed. He's done a 27.9. They're definitely timing that, and he had a bit of a slide going through the final chicane, but there's definitely a bit of time for it. I believe you mentioned Andy Danny. He was up by 2 tenths of a second, and he lost 3 tenths of a second, which is not the most ideal thing to do when you want to be pushing out your absolute best. Mad Dogs, I believe, is going for a lap now. I'll let you go over that, but at the moment, nothing looks to be going great for anyone else.
No, it's a bit scruffy there through turn 1 for Mad Dogs. Caden's up by nearly a tenth of a second in the first part of the lap, was up by 79,000, so just under 800ths of a second. And he may now find himself stretching his legs even further. And we said, of course, for teammate Sam Lewis, if he was able to hook up that first sector, we could see him into the 0.4s. Could Caden also follow that feat here for AERT? And that will certainly see them comfortably through as well, you would think. So, straight line mode activated. Through the middle sector split we ride. And he's lost a bit of time through the middle part of the lap. But if he has a good Casio triangle, we certainly could see a 0.5 still certainly on the cards here for Caden. Nicely through the first part and the second, gets on the power, and he actually elects to abort and come into pit lane, so won't be finding an improvement. Mad Dogs was up by 1,000th of a second through the first sector. Through the middle sector he now comes, and he's down by half a tenth. So for GT10, it's also seeming to be a little bit of doom and gloom for them alongside VLX. They're starting to struggle slightly, and with Mad Dog's teammate only on a 27.9, it's not looking good so far for GT10, and they're going to struggle to see themselves through.
Indeed, at the moment that is the case. There are quite a few people on laps. Waterbushler, for example, is one of them, who is up by 2 tenths of a second. He's going to finish the lap. He comes around the final corner to the line. He does a 27.4. Very, very quick for IRT. They just need Simmerox to get that second lap, and they will look very safe.
They certainly will. They'll look very nice indeed if they can get Simba a little bit further up. Even if it's a tenth or 2, it certainly could help them dearly. Sam Lewis elects to abort and come into pit lane, just like we saw what happened with teammate Caden. He was only up by 300ths in that middle sector. Must have lost that time into the Casio triangle. So now all eyes turn to GT10 and Flamu. And what is he going to be able to deliver? A 27.9 at the moment is what is on the cards. His teammate, of course, Mad Dog's only on a 28.2. So GT10 need a miracle in these final 2 laps from both their drivers. And are they going to be able to get it?
Hopefully for them, yes. But it depends on what the viewers want for the main season. If they are a team that will be exciting, then it will be brilliant. But at the moment, it seems like they're the only ones on a push lap, so we're going to stay with Flamu as he comes through Dunlop Curve towards the end of Sector 1 and the infamous Degner one. As he is up, he's actually down by a quarter of a tenth. The time can 100% be found as he goes through the Degners. Nice and clean it looked as we come to a hairpin. That is the corner name, and it doesn't look the fastest or the most aggressive. However, if that's how he wants to take it, and it works, then it works. As he comes through the high-speed 200R, about 289 km an hour with his max speed, as he lifts into Spoon, taking it as aggressively as possible, washing wide a little bit. I think he's just about avoided the invalidation as he powers down the long back straight. It's his idea of if he wants to box or not, and I think at the moment the best idea would be to just finish it, because getting back out again wouldn't be the easiest, and he was up by a bit of time as the Casio Triangle doesn't look the most aggressive, and he's going to opt to finish the lap, which is probably a smarter move. Up to the line, he's going to do a 27.8, doesn't move it up in position, but time-wise it could be enough depending on what Mad Dogs do.
Yeah, Mad Dogs needs to set a good lap time here, at least match his teammate. If they want an opportunity to see themselves through GT10, their chances of qualifying are hanging by a thread, and Mad Dogs has just started a lap. So as we make our way through turns 1 and 2, this is where it was a bit of a handful last time around, a lot more compliant this time. I say that, he's rounding into the wall, and for GT10 I think that could be qualifiers over, and that could be their chances of qualifying, going around in a cloud of smoke. And unfortunately there for Mad Dogs, I said it was compliant. It was a bit more tidier through the entry at least of turn 1 and 2. But as soon as he got on the power, the rear of the car looped round, and it all goes horribly wrong. As we now look at Andy Danny making his way through the middle sector. As actually no, yes, he's going to be the first of these next drivers to make their way through on a lap. And through the middle sector we see here from Andy, he's first sector, he's up by 0.02 of a second, but disappointment there for GT10 here. On a Mad Dogs car just never seemed to be hooked up.
Unfortunately for them, that's all she wrote, as Mad Dogs will be very lucky if he can get around to try and get one more lap, but his tyres are in the mud, you could say, as he currently sits behind Warder Bushler, who made it out of the pit lane with about 1:45 to go, and GT10 Flamu has retired. He knew there wasn't any more time left on the clock to get another lap, but at the moment, people are on the final laps, as Mad Dogs might just be lucky, but who is going to be the first across the line? That will be Andy Danny. He's up by 2 and nearly 0.3 of a second, as he just clobbered his way through Casio Triangle. It doesn't look the cleanest and negative, it's just squirmy. Up to the line, he's going to just check a flag, he's a 28.0, and unfortunately for them, unless Ugoni can do something, which it looks like he won't, that is it for VLX. But GT10 Mad Dogs, fortunately, did make it around, and never mind, he'd invalidated it somewhere.
Oh, unfortunately there for Mad Dogs, must have went wide through turn 1 to pick up the invalidation. And Caden's not found an improvement either, but Raphael goes to second fastest, a 27.5 from him. QDR looking ever better at making their way through to qualify. We look at Edward now as he makes his way through the Casio Triangle. I think this is going to be it for his session. I'm not sure if there's going to be an improvement. There is, by 1,000th of a second. Simba's down by half a tenth, but Ward's lap should be enough to see, of course, IRT through. Going to be disappointing though there for Simba. Has had a lot of promise in practice that I know of, and unfortunately when the lights are brightest has not really delivered there. Sam Lewis now making his way through the middle sector split, same with Ward's as well, so we'll keep an eye on both of these. Up by 700ths there is Sam. Ward's, we just couldn't catch that middle sector split, But is he still finding an improvement in the Red Bull? He's getting a lovely toe. Well, distant toe, should I say, through 130R. Sam Lewis to the line. Can he find enough to find himself into the 0.6s? He can find his way into the 0.5s. And here comes Wharton. He goes to the 0.3s. So for IRT, I definitely believe they are now through thanks to Wards. And Sam Lewis puts himself into second place. That should certainly confirm AERT. Same goes for QDR as well. And the big disappointment there, Ollie, really is GT10, who just could not get Mad Dog's car to be hooked up at all. The rear of the car squirming all over the place.
Unfortunately, it just didn't look great, but you should have seen the smile on my face when I saw Ward cross the line. That was an absolutely storming lap. ART probably came to this lobby as the favourite, but they have left empty-handed as Ward is currently sat at the top of the timing tower.
Lovely stuff there from Wards to put himself into P1 for IRT. And then it's Sam Lewis, Raphael, Caden, Edwards. So AERT, IRT and QDR all having fantastic sessions there. Then it's Flamu, Simbarox, Andy Danny, Ugoni and Mad Dogs rounding out the top 10. Last lobby is coming up, ladies and gentlemen, which features ETA, HLR, VMV, SCI, WRL and SSL. And we shall see you in a few moments' time to get the last session of the evening underway and confirm who is making it to Season 8. welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, for the final lobby of the evening. And it should be a rather interesting one. 5 teams are already confirmed through. We still have another few to go. We've got ET8 who are in the Alpines. We've got HLR in the Red Bull, V&V in the V-Carb, SCI in the Audi, WRL in the Mercedes, and SSL in the McLarens. Of course, Ollie, 5 teams are through: FVR, AERT, QDR, VLS, and IRT. So they can all now breathe a sigh of relief. But for the likes of TRT, TRS, FRT, GT10, their hopes now hang in the balance.
I'm going to say this now. SSL is missing a driver tonight, so only 5 teams can beat everyone else. So TRT are technically safe now.
Oh.
So they can also breathe a sigh of relief.
So WRL are doing this as very much a experience lesson to see where they stack up against the rest of the field with 1 driver. So 6 cars are safe. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. So that means TRS, FRT, GT10 and VLX, I believe, are the ones that could potentially miss out. Maybe TTN as well. All their hopes now hang in the balance of this, of course, division. But of course, here, Ollie, you're expecting SCI and ET8 to make it through. They're the 2 big hitters of this lobby.
Oh, 100%. SCI obviously raiding back-to-back champions, hoping to go for a 3rd. For the history-wise, they love that. But a championship battle we have not seen properly since Season 5 on F124. So for everyone else's sake, we're hoping for a big battle in the championship, but for SDR's sake, they just want to run away with it again, as they are using Finley and Kazillo tonight, which should be enough to get them through, realistically.
Certainly should, but we saw for FVR, some teams can have a difficult start, even if you are a big hitter, but HLR are getting things underway, and it is going to be Luca who starts the final session in the Red Bull, closely followed by teammates Jaden as they make their way through the first sector now. What are they going to be able to deliver? So for Luca, as he makes his way now into Dunlop Curve, and we're making his way to the exit of the first sector. What is the benchmark first part of the lap going to be here from the Red Bull? A 32.2, not too strong, misses the apex slightly as well through Degner 1 and runs a little bit wide through Degner 2 on the exit as well. So it's been a bit of a scruffy start to the session here from the Red Bull man. Again, a very narrow line. Had to really hesitate to get the car into the corner. Make sure he didn't clip that inside curve, because that would have really rotated the car around. And as he now makes his way through 200R and into Spoon Curve, it's going to be down the gears and then throw the car in. Misses the apex slightly once again. You've got to hesitate now to get onto the power. Wait for the car to at least tip onto the exit. And then up to the middle sector split, a 1 minute 10.7. He's around about half a second off what we saw the likes of Wards do in the last session. So as he now makes his way into the Casio triangle, a big slide under braking, maybe tapped the grass as he was getting the car lined up. And Kay comes into the pit lane, and that's going to be his first lap done. Teammate Jaden over a bit of a slide as well himself, but up to the line at 27.9. It's the benchmark for this session.
Not the greatest lap for Jaden, and Luke obviously messed up the twins. Definitely could have got more there, but Epic Vale gets the better lap on the board now. Finding a 10th as VMB Leo slots into 4th, and this is where all the laps come in, and this is where SCI just run away at the top. Punching in a 1:27.7, which is very strong. Not many more people to finish their laps now, as Luke is actually the next to come to the line. Still 28.1. And that should be most people done until Ryderdal goes up to the top. Hello, with a 27.4. That was not on my bucket list to see immediately, because I hadn't noticed him.
Yeah, ET8 certainly announcing themselves onto the scene that we are here to contend this season. And a Ryderdal, a 27.4 and a 27.84 Epic Vale. That will certainly see themselves through already, I do believe. So that is one team we can already say are going to be safe and going to be through. Kazizel wasn't able to get a lap time on the board there for SCI. Of course, Shazoo Cedars Igniters So they're going to hope that the Audi driver is going to be able to at least put something on the board for now. But for Finley, a 27.7, and for Epic Vale as well, a 27.8. I think they'll be expecting a little bit more from their banker laps there, especially with the fact that they're in the high 27s. You're expecting them to be about where Ryderdale is at this stage.
Oh, 100%. You would definitely expect all the extremely fast people to be right in the top, challenging Ryderdale. Ryderdale set a very competitive lap, and not many people were able to obviously match that. We have now got people who didn't do their first lap going out for their second lap, which is being led by the group is being led by Kazizzle, who is running the old Shazoo name, as that is what they used to be called.
Yes, certainly is indeed. Hasn't updated the gamer tag yet, but I do not blame him in this economy, especially if he does have to, of course, pay to change it on the PlayStation side. But for HLR, Luca, of course, made the mistakes on that last lap. Was a bit scruffy of a first attempt, didn't bother completing the lap. So let's see what he's going to be able to deliver this time around as he makes his way across the start-finish line. And we'll start run 2 of the evening. 11 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. We'll see what these drivers can deliver throughout the rest of this one. Nearly at the halfway stage already. And for Luca, as he makes his way through the first sector. Of course, it was a 32.1 last time around. What's it going to be this time around for the Red Bull? Are we going to see a slight improvement?
Hopefully for his case it would be nice, as he would like to be up there with Jade, and it just doesn't look that much faster. Unless he's got all the juice in the middle, the second half of the lap, it just doesn't look like he's got it all together. It all depends on what he does through Sector 2 and 3. As he goes through Hairpin, as he hugs the inside in first gear, and he's going to absolutely plant it before burning all the battery down the incredibly long 200R. Once again, the second time of possibly 4 times he's going to do that, as he launches his way into the tight first half of Spoon Curve before going through the second half in 4th gear, again on the throttle as early as possible, and he does look like he had a bit of a wobble there on the exit as he comes up the hill towards the infamous 130R. He does do a 10.6, which isn't terrible, to be honest. The middle sector is not the fastest, but he just hopes to get the rest of the laps all sorted as he goes through the final chicane. It doesn't look that bad. He's got all the power down toward the line. His lap is going to be a 27.8, which is much better than last time around.
Certainly is a very nice lap time indeed there, as Kazizzle hasn't got this next lap hooked up either, so he's backed off and is getting ready to go again. What about Dingling, of course, for the lone QSR car? And he has invalidated the lap as well. So for QSR, there, of course, a one-driver experiment is not going too well at the moment. HLR Jaden, of course, teammate of Luca, is now going on a lap himself. A 27.9 and a 27.9 is very respectable so far from HLR, so they certainly could see themselves in an opportunity to qualify. Of course, with ETA being confirmed qualifying and being confirmed through at the moment, that means TTN have been the next to hit the chopping block, and unfortunately they will not make it through to the main season. So for Jaden, as he now makes his way into the hairpin, we'll see what he can produce. Is he going to get at least a tenth faster, beat his teammate Luca? Because of course it's not just to qualify for your team. You would love to beat your teammate in the process and have that little bit of competition, friendly competition in the camp, and have that bit of bragging rights that's saying I was a bit faster than you and I was the main reason the team succeeded, even if it is a few hundredths of a second separating the two. Jaden through the middle sector, up by 3.5 tenths of a second. This is going to be a spectacular lap time here from Jaden, and will certainly see HLR with a strong opportunity to see themselves through into the main season. Lovely stuff through the Castillo Triangle as well. We'll certainly find more time because he had a slide across the line. A 27.5 from HLR Jaden. A very strong lap time indeed, as Finley is up by 2 tenths.
Indeed it is. It's not only bragging rights to the team, it's bragging rights in the family, as they are twins, just to keep an eye on. Finley, unfortunately, does back out, and up next is the 88 driver of Epic Vale, who does slot himself into 3rd place, and all but clinching ETA in with a strong confirmation that they are now safe, and that just looks them just looked even better for them, and HLR also looked safe as Rydal had a massive wobble on the exit of the final corner there. So up next is the VMV driver of Leo, who's up by 2 and a bit tenths as he comes up to the line, and he does a 27.8. Not the most competitive, as VMV obviously would like a lot more, but if they can't do much more, then that's just on them, unfortunately.
Still a very strong lap time though from Leo, and this grid, at least lobby 4, seeming very, very competitive indeed at the moment, and all of these drivers have an opportunity to send their teams through. Of course, if you've gone in lobby 1, 2, 3, this is where you really are holding your breath if you're not already confirmed through, and you are preying on other teams making mistakes, crumbling down on the pressure, because lobby 4 here, Ollie, it probably is the most difficult lobby to be in, because you've got that benchmark, you know what time you need to hit, but you've got others around you doing the same thing. And it's also just the fact this is the final lobby, so whatever happens now, it is it. What's done is done, and you cannot change that.
That is the case indeed. However, a lot of people would obviously like to just get a bit more, because they're obviously going to be hungry for absolutely everything tonight, aren't they? As the first driver to believe start a lap will be... actually don't know. It'll be Luca, actually, excuse me. As he is coming up the hill at the moment. He's coming towards the end of his out lap, and he will be wanting to get the absolute best. He obviously didn't do that first lap, so the second lap, the lap he's currently got at the moment, it was his banker. But hopefully for him, let's see if we can improve.
Yeah, let's see if we can find an improvement here from Luca. If he does, HLR are certainly going to be through and certainly going to be safe here tonight, and that will be a big achievement for them to make it through to the main season. So for Luca, nicely done through the first corner and now into the S's. Of course, first sector has been a 32.2. That's what it was on that last lap. Are we going to see a slight improvement here, or are we going to see a bit more time in the bag still potentially on offer for him through that middle sector? He's found a first sector. He's found a tenth of a second in the opening part of the lap, and a much better deck in the 2 as well. Doesn't run as far wide onto the curb, so this certainly shaping up to be a very nice lap so far here from Luca. Down to first gear, picks the power up nicely through the hairpin, and will now make his way through 200R and into Spoon Curve. Needs to keep his composure for 2 more braking zones if he wants to send HLR through. A little bit wide through Spoon Curve, not able to get the car tucked into the apex like he would have wanted. But as we now head up into the middle sector split, has he kept that time in hand? Has he still got a tenth of a second to boot? He's nearly got 2 tenths of a second to boot. And this could match his teammate and maybe go into the 0.5s if he has a strong Casio triangle. A little bit wide through the first part, a bit hot on the brakes, but certainly will still find an improvement at the very least to send HLR through across the line at 27.7. That's certainly going to be safe, I feel. And for HLR Luca, a very strong lap time indeed. A good improvement as Finley is up by nearly 2 tenths in the first sector. What can he do for the remainder of the lap?
Hopefully he can get it all notched together, the bolt through Spoon Curve, and he just looks absolutely locked in on track at the moment. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter for him at the moment. It all matters what Kazizel does, because he is in a very dangerous position at the moment, and he does come through Spoon Curve. But we'll stay with Finley for now, and he's 3 tenths up on his last lap. That is absolutely ridiculous. So he's going to have an absolutely storming lap here. Will he challenge Rydal for the top? Yes, he will. He will go faster. A 127.430, and that is a new benchmark for everyone to reach until Rydal comes to the top. He misses out by 2 thousandths of a second. So up next will be Kazizel, I believe, and he's up by a lot, and he goes into that place, and SCI all but look okay as it stands.
Yep, HLR, SCI, and of course ETA all certainly do look through at the moment. And for Kazizel, even though it's 2 tenths off his teammate, that's all SCI would have wanted. They would have told him, just get that lap on the board. Get it across the line and we will go from there, and that is certainly what he has done, as Jaden is up by 2/10 in the middle sector. We could see Jaden into the point freeze. He's got a McLaren of Dingaling in the way. Maybe it's a little bit of a visual distraction, but a tiny Casio triangle. We could see Jaden snatch that top spot away here from Finley. Across the line we go. No, lost time in that final sector, but still a 0.4, 200th shy. Jaden really showing himself as quite a handy driver here at Suzuka, and certainly one driver to watch if when HLR do make it to that main season. So for Jaden, certainly I think has been maybe even the star of the night so far.
Indeed, I've just watched Leon. I think he might have just been blocked as he was on a lap. He was up by about 1/10 of a second. Whether he got blocked or not, I can't confirm, but he did have the Shizou driver of Kazizel in front of him. Hopefully, for Kazizel's sake, he didn't get blocked, and it's all okay. As we have got 2 minutes left in session, only a few people now can really get one more lap done, because everyone is still out on track.
Yeah, it needs to be a quick turnaround for a majority of these drivers, or we're going to have a very, very abrupt ending to this session. And we're going to see what these drivers can pull off. FC Leon is going to go again here for WRL. So even though he got blocked, well, potentially blocked, he is backed off and got ready to go again. Luca and Leo have been able to get out onto outlaps. I think Ryderdale has gone for a second. No, he's just come into pit lane. He certainly won't be able to go out again. Neither will Jaden. Finlay will need to come out now. I think a lot of these drivers aren't going to make it to the line. So we're only going to see a handful of drivers here at the back of the grid have an opportunity to set laps when the track is at its best. So, and one of these is going to be Finlay. Not Finley, sorry, Leon in the Mercedes. He's only up by 100th, though, in the first sector, but a 32-1 is still competitive. A slide out of Degner 2 is not going to help him at all. And now as he makes his way through the hairpin, and now will put the foot down and build his way up through the gears. Use that battery. He's currently on a 28-0. He'll want to try and match at least Luca, who also is in those 0.1s, but that slide out of Degner 2 may have cost him dearly and may have taken the opportunity away from him. Through Spoon Curve we go. Lovely off-board shot as we then get back on the power and head up the hill into 130R in the middle sector split. What are we seeing here from Leon? Is still only up by 100th of a second, and so far for WRL, it's not looking like they're going to make it through. He needs a monumental Casio triangle if he wants to take that top, at least get into the top 11. Ryderdale has retired, of course, won't be able to make it out. And here comes Leon to the line. How much of an improvement? A 10th and a half, a 27.9, but I don't think it's enough.
It doesn't look like it could be great at the moment. His teammate Luke is currently ahead of the sole SSL driver of Dingling. That is, of course, Deacon. But at the moment, Luke is up by 3.8 of a second. So we could be on upset alert at the moment, maybe, but I'm not too sure. As he breaks very late into the final corner, it does look, it looks tidy. Will it be enough up to the line? There was a question. Kazizel, Jaden and Finley rolled on, and up to the line is a 0.6. Will that be enough, you reckon? As Dingling goes into P10, only a few people to go, and I believe the HLR driver of Luca and both VMVs are the ones to keep a cruel eye on at the moment, as well as Epic Vale.
Yep, certainly there for WRL. Luke might have just kept their hopes of qualifying alive. No improvement there from Boyer. Here comes Luca as he now makes his way through the middle sector split. He's up by 0.07 of a second. A slight improvement here will certainly help HLR's case for an opportunity in the main season. A bit of a slide through the Casio triangle, and I think that's going to be lap over. A spin as well to boot, and into the wall on the pit lane entry. So we all eyes now really do turn to Leo, but he's also had a bit of a slide as the VMV driver, and he's now spun off into the wall in frustration. So for VMV, I do not see them advancing. All eyes now turn to Epic Fail. This, for ETA, is surely just going to be a bit of a glory run. If Epic Vale can top the session, it will be very nice for them indeed. He's up by a 10th and a half in the middle sector. Is there anything more to find in the final parts of the lap to try and displace Shizou, Cedars, Ignites, Finley, or is the ET8 man just going to fall short? Up to the line we come here with Epic Vale. Is it enough to take it away? No. Second fastest, 500th shy. And for ET8, they just miss out on topping Lobby 4, but the final lobby of the session is done. And it is going to be Finley who takes the top spot by 0.02 of a second from Ryderdale. Epic Val in third. 5,000 separate the top 5. 200ths separate the top 4 with Jaden in fourth. Kazizzle, Luke, Luca, Leo, Leon, Dingaling and Boyer round out your 11 drivers there for lobby, for the final lobby of the evening. And now, Ollie, as of course... glorious faces. It's all about now the weight. Who has made it through? Who has not made it through? And this, when you're in a team event, when you're one of the ones not like ETA, IRT, or even the ones that went beforehand that are already confirmed, these are tense, tense times.
It's not the greatest moment to be in as it stands. If you remember Season 4 on Xbox, Jaden did exactly what I did in qualifying. Fortunately for his case, damage was off, and he lived scot-free.
He certainly did indeed, and I think that it has all been confirmed. I think the spreadsheet has just been updated, and there is a big, big, big shock here, Ollie. FRT have missed the cut by 0.07 of a second. Your teams that have made it through to Season 8 of CSS are FVR, ETA, FCI, AERT, QDR, HLR, VLS, IRT, TRT, WRL and TRS made it through. But for FRT, VMV, GT10, VLX, TTN, HYD, REL and SSL, they all miss out. But Ollie, a big shock for FRT, and that is going to be bitter disappointment for them.
Genuinely don't know what they did wrong. I think Thiago did enough, but it was Speed Demon that I think let them down. The biggest shock for me is TRS. I definitely did not have them going through. I had two of the teams that got knocked out in FRT and VMB making it through, and obviously FRT from last season finished in the top 3 in the championship. So only one team from last season's top 3 will return, because obviously VNT's console side did end up shutting, but SCI will be back and hopefully hungry for a title.
They certainly are, but there is also another twist in the tail. There is a inquiry, I don't know who from, but there is a potential inquiry, which means WRL could get a penalty here as well. So it may not be over for FRT just yet, but I think while we wait before confirmation, I'm unsure if we'll get that confirmation here tonight. There is a report for WRL, I think. I'm unsure. But, Ollie, there is a... we won't find out tonight, so you've got to keep an eye on the socials if WRL get a penalty. FRT, they're just going to hold their breath for another couple of days. But, Ollie, there is, of course, another part of CSS that I think you would like to talk about a little bit further.
There 100% is. There is the competitive speed league that will be ran on a Wednesday at 8 PM. It would run a short qualifying and a 50% format, just like the event does. Additionally, though, it also comes with some prizes. The top 3 will all get a cash prize as well as a trophy. The prizes will come as followed. P1 will get €35 and the biggest trophy available. P2 will be getting, I believe it was 20 and a middle-sized trophy, and then P3 will be getting 10 and the small-sized trophy, which is still better than nothing. Obviously, to sign up, you go to the league and there will be a form. I can't remember fully where the form is, unfortunately, but it will be somewhere. I believe it's in applications. You've got to do a Zandvoort lap and a Mexico lap. Sign-ups close at midnight on the 12th of August, and the time trials can be submitted at midnight on the 14th of August. So you've got 5 days to get them laps in, 3 days to sign up. So for anyone watching, I would love to see you there, and if you are there, great to see you on track.
Yes, so make sure you do sign up for that if you are interested, ladies and gentlemen, you've only got a few more days to get yourself signed up for CSL. But, of course, one more thing before we head off for tonight is, well, we've got at least most of the teams confirmed. We've only got 2 teams that are hanging on the balance, WRL and FRT. They're, of course, still waiting on who will come through, and that'll be for the next few days. But what's the calendar? What would they be racing on this season, you may ask? Well, here is the calendar, and we have, of course, a 12-round season, and we start off at Bahrain on the 23rd of August for the console side. Then we head to Monza, Azerbaijan, Saudi Arabia, Imola, Austria, Monaco, Brazil, Netherlands, Australia, Hungary and Mexico to round off the season. Ollie, some great tracks there, but what one sticks out to you the most as the circuit you are looking forward to?
It's a tough question, that. Obviously, Bahrain is a track that we've not seen for a couple of seasons, but there is also the mighty Monaco, where it's tight, it's dangerous, but anything can happen there. You've not really seen upsets last time we had it round there. We had, obviously, Niall do the double on PC and console. Hopefully we have different winners this time around, and it would be nice if we do. And then we've also got the return of Mexico, which we've not seen properly on a calendar since F1 24 in Season 5. That was the season where TF10 and FCR were fighting for the title on PC.
Well, we shall certainly see what we do have in store. And if Niall does the double again, it's Niall Gio. He is a Monaco merchant. So don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen. There is a reason he is Mr. Monaco. And he's made a team called Le Hotel for some fun as well. But, of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be all from us here this evening. Make sure you keep an eye on the socials to see if FRT have made it through or not. But, Ollie, before we head off, is there any last words from you?
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching, everybody. Make sure you tune in to the main season. Of course, PC starts on the 22nd at 8 PM UK time, and the, of course, console side will start on the 23rd at the same time. So we'll see you all in the season. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and we shall see you at round 1. Thank you, and bye-bye.